Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. I am the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Zach, and on the panel, the usual suspects of three. To my immediate right, Nick, the Redman Mumley. In the middle, Super Dave Handy. And on the far end of the table, our old pal, Duke Forrest.
Did you purposely say not on the far right? Did you purposely say?
You've become more moderate over the years.
I'm certainly no limousine liberal, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, Duke, before I get into it, can you give me an official snowfall?
Well, I'd say, in fact, I was going to ask you guys too. I measured kind of 3, 3, 4. I'm up to pretty close to a foot. What would you guys?
I think it depends where you measure it.
Yeah, I measure typically in my driveway, typically on top of my car. It's heavy wet, so
it's
maybe more. It kind of weighs it down. But I'm close to a foot.
My kid had cross country ski practice tonight, and they practice up in at Dickinson's.
Oh yeah,
over in Fairfield.
Yeah,
right on the Button Road. And of course, he went off the road, and I had to go pull him out. And that snow in that field had to be 2 feet deep.
Because we had some snow before, but not a whole lot.
It is just going up the hill, that extra 1,000 or 500 feet.
No, elevation doesn't.
Incredible. I can't imagine. There must be 4 feet of snow at JP.
I mean, I was down at Anna Neville's, even Georgia Shore. She's got half as much as I have at my house in the city. But I'd say, St. Albans City, I'd say, close to a foot. Burlington officially was 8.2 probably earlier today. I saw a reference to Highgate, whoever the unknown observer in Highgate is. I saw Swanton 8 inches. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with close to a foot.
Higher snowfalls in the state.
Rochester, Vermont, 2 feet. The Kingdom, with a lot of places in the Kingdom, like Newport. I think I saw Morgan, which is en route to my camp, 15, 16 inches. Wow. And again, as we're talking about snow quickly, the Weather Service had a horrible time with this, right? I mean, yesterday, there I am shoveling again. They didn't even have a winter weather advisory posted for us. They had it for eastern Franklin County, Lamoille County. They had a winter storm warning for higher elevations and maybe the Kingdom. I think what kicks in a winter storm warning is 6 inches. I had 6 inches at my house. I think we should have had a winter storm warning. They didn't even have a traveler's advisory for most of, for the Champlain Valley. No. So I think they had a terrible time with this.
I'm glad you're still alive, because you have a dip in your driveway.
Well, it's enough to.
And that's heart attack snow right there.
Of course, yesterday, was the day that I got snow tires on my good old Corolla, and Jennifer's car. In fact, when I was pulling into Raymond LaRush's place in Highgate, I managed to get there okay, right? I pull in, going a little too fast. My brakes didn't do much. I actually went off at the end of his driveway. Much to his surprise, I got myself out after about 10 minutes. But tough going.
That's a pretty tough little driveway you have to shovel.
That's funny. Just that,
going up the hill.
Just that incline is enough to make it tough. Yeah. With snow tires now on all cars, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But no, this has been the toughest storm I've dealt with in years. I think this has been a real pain.
Yeah, because I am an avid watcher of the TV show Highway Through Hell on the Weather Channel.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good show. It's about tow truck drivers, more recovery.
Like Canada, right?
Yeah, and Hope,
BC. Where is that one road they're dealing with?
Well,
is it Alaska or Canada?
It's Hope, BC, right outside of Vancouver.
Oh, road right outside Vancouver?
And that's elevation. Heavy wet snow. And they had operations up in Alberta near Fort McMurray, where the oil fields are. And it's a different snow. It's a dry, powdery snow there. So, but since we brought up cars, I was going to save it. But General Motors, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I mean, it's just been stunning news the last couple of days about General Motors.
But not stunning to this guy,
Well, David's in the know, but they're eliminating the long-time Chevy Impala. That's been around forever. The Chevy Volt, the Chevy Cruze, a Cadillac SCT.
But I think XTS, and
we're going to still sell that one in China.
Right. It's not like they're eliminated. They're just not going to be making them where they've been making them, right?
Right. And
probably make a lot less of them.
And certainly, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you know about 99% of all this stuff. But they're shutting down 5 plants.
3 assembly plants, 2 transmission plants. And even when they're done, they'll still have too many plants.
Really?
for the number of cars they're making.
Really?
And they've been doing layoffs on the traditional side, but what they haven't been telling you is that they've been hiring on, they are probably the leader in autonomous ride sharing end of it, which is going to be big in urban areas. It's here already. It's coming. And they are making big bets on electric cars. And
That's sure. Is that smart to you? It sure sounds. You're
well,
the car guy.
I think all the car companies were kind of caught with their pants down with Tesla, because Tesla, even though they aren't a very well-run company, their success can't be ignored.
Is that right?
They're going to sell. They're selling 50, 60,000 cars a quarter
All right,
now.
David,
Are they really? We're talking all electric cars?
Right.
there?
David, it's 18 below zero here in Franklin County. You tell me how that Tesla electric car is going to start up in the morning.
It'll start, but it'll have about a tenth of the power or of the range that it normally
But
would
let me
have.
ask you
Oh,
this.
is that right? That little?
Yeah,
It's really cold?
when it's 20 below zero.
If you don't own a car dealership, would you own a Tesla? Would you even consider
No.
living in Vermont?
No.
Or
So it
No.
sounds like this is not a good car for Vermont then?
No.
Good
And-
warm weather car?
And the other, but the thing is, all the car companies are all in the electric car business, and they are being pushed into it. China, who is the biggest car market, about 30 million cars,
Wow.
where we sell 17 million here.
No.
China is mandating electric cars.
For some years down the road?
Not that far away.
Really?
And in Europe is jumped in big.
Where
on
gas
electric
prices,
cars.
of course, are always way
Well,
twice us.
Europe was big on diesel cars.
Oh, yeah.
And the diesel cars,
Huge issue in France, by the way.
yeah.
Big
and-
time protests in France because diesel prices are going up.
Well, and not only that, but what happened was the European car guys cheated on their diesel emissions tests.
Okay.
And their cars, like Volkswagen in particular,
Right.
the car was not putting out 40% times as much pollution as it should have, but 400 times or
Is that right?
because the pollution controls were completely shut off.
Wow. So
So-
everybody was doing this?
Well, they all haven't been caught, but they're all under investigation.
Really?
And so diesel has really got a bad rap in Europe. And because most of the cars were there, I would say 80% of the cars in Europe were diesel.
Is that really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Does the GM thing, does that have any effect on Handy Buick? Does that affect you in the slightest bit?
No.
Zero.
And the cars that they're not building anymore,
Yeah.
if we sell 500 cars this year, 500 vehicles, it maybe was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But David, when I purchased a vehicle from you last year, you upfrontly, if that's such a word, say, it's Hog, this is a really nice car, made in China. I mean,
Yeah.
Does Canada, U.S. make cars anymore?
Oh yeah, there's
Sure.
a lot of cars made in the U.S. and and I think part of this business with GM is what they didn't say they were going to close the plants. The only plant they said they were going to close was Oshawa, Ontario, which they've been threatening to close for years.
Right. That sounded like those guys knew that was coming.
And the other deal they have is with the Canadian Union. If they tell them, they've got a year to tell them, and then they can do it. In America, their deal with the union isn't so simple, and they just can't close a plant without negotiating with the union first.
In fact, I guess the union guys are already, as soon as they got that word, were out front protesting
Now,
and stuff.
what I think they're doing is what they said is these cars that they're building in these plants, they said they aren't going to build anymore after this year. They did not say they were going to close the plants.
Okay.
I think there'll be some negotiation, and I suspect that maybe some of these products that are built in China, that are built in Korea, that are built in Mexico, could be brought back here
And built here?
and built here. But the question is, they still have more plants than what they need.
Well, let me ask you a simple question. You know, my vehicle was not a cheap vehicle. It's a nice vehicle. Why is that built in China and not in Ontario or Michigan? Is it a simple labor cost issue?
No, your car in particular. See, what a lot of people don't understand, General Motors sells a lot of cars in China. More cars in China than they do here. 3-4 million. The plant that builds your car builds 300,000 of those a year. We don't sell 300,000 of those in the U.S. We sell about 40,000. It would be a lot more money for them. It would not make sense for them to build a plant that can only build 40,000 vehicles.
Exactly.
The break even on these plants, they need to sell 300,000 a year of whatever they're building and work 3 shifts a day.
Really?
Now, see, their pickup trucks, we got a caller. But their
we have a
pickup truck plants, they're working overtime 7 days a week.
Okay. Let me grab this call. Good evening. You're on the best damn automobiles in Franklin County.
Very good, Hawk.
Hello.
Hey, how they rolling, guys?
They're good.
But nobody's buying cars anymore.
Hate to be the exception.
One thing, I'd like to clarify, when we say built in the U.S., they're assembled in the U.S. Now, if you look at, like, I think my vehicle, what I looked at, it says like a 75% American parts. Now, when you assemble a car, your parts are not all built in the plant.
Absolutely.
Now, there's hundreds of vendors that
Yes.
this company here, say in Chicago, does the airbags. This company in Indianapolis does the brakes.
Yes.
This company in Portland, Maine does the seats. So what it is, these cars are assembled, and people have the misconception that these plants build all the parts too. What they do again is assemble there.
Well,
And I think what GM did here, thank goodness, and I hope they lead by example. Instead of reacting, they're pre-acting, and you will probably see some of the other car makers following suit.
well, actually, caller, there's been a seismic shift in customer taste in the last 4 or 5 years. The market overall has gone from 50-50 cars to trucks to over 70% cars and trucks and SUVs, 30% cars. And
in Vermont, it's 80-20.
it's over 80 now.
Really?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, because I drive the interstate every day for the last 40 years, and you hit it on the head. If you just observe in the morning, if it isn't, a Chevy, a GMC going by you, a Toyota going by you, then you look, it's, a woman will go by in the RAV4, or I think you may, what do you call them, Escapades, or?
Ford makes those, right?
escapes.
Or what do you have, David, for the...
Well, we have a Terrain. We've got the Envision, the Encore, of course, we got the Cadillacs.
But at any rate, you see those going by, you see the pickup trucks going by, and, it's kind of funny, really, you look at the little cars that go by me on the interstate, they're usually kids about Red's age. They'll go flying by, and they have them souped-up mufflers. It sounds like 10 chainsaws are going by you. But no, there has been a big shift. You're absolutely right, because like I say, I've traveled the interstate for 41 years now going to work, and it is the, pickup trucks, and it is the, SUVs.
Now, I think to clarify what you said, because you're exactly right, 50 years ago, all of the car companies were what was called vertically integrated, and they built actually about 95% of the car themselves. And they would only buy very few things from outside suppliers. The whole idea was, why should we let other people make money on the parts when we can make them ourselves? But as the unions came along and the prices got more expensive for components, they've learned that it's easier and better to have somebody else build things, and all the car companies all divested their parts making plants. Like GM doesn't own AC Delco, or Ford doesn't own theirs. They all sold them off. And today, only about 20% of the car or the vehicle is actually built by the manufacturer, and about 80% of it they buy from suppliers. And so the suppliers can be anywhere. The difference is, though, if the cars are if the engineering work is here in the U.S., that's where most of the money is. It costs about $1 billion to $2 billion for a car company to build one new model. From the time somebody draws it on a sheet of paper to the time it gets in our driveway, they just redid our pickups, $2 billion.
Wow.
Really?
So the car business is an incredibly expensive business. And this business here, what they're doing is they're trying to be proactive, and instead of waiting until the economy goes in the toilet and then you got to close the plants, they're trying to say, hey, look, even though we're making money, and they're doing very well, we want to be doing better, and we don't want plants that are only running at 30%, 40% capacity. We either are going to close them, or we're going to put the right product in there that is going to utilize the plant better.
David, how much does the federal government subsidize electric cars today?
The federal government subsidizes electric cars $7,500 a car.
Okay.
And
Really?
for GM and Tesla, it's just about done. Because the deal was when you sold up to 200,000 of them, then it would stop. And that's the other thing, is that as much as they're laying off on this side, GM is hiring. They are all in on electric cars, and they are going to be big in electric cars. And the problem is right now, everybody's losing money on electric cars. Nobody, even Tesla.
Really?
They're just, it costs too much to build them, the batteries. But this next generation, they think they'll be able to build them at a profit.
So the cost presumably will go down.
The costs will go down. Yeah. But electric cars in Vermont, I don't think are ever going to be too big. And they told us, I went to a dealer meeting in October, and they told us that if they went to, just so that we didn't get too worried, if they went to 100% electric cars tomorrow, it would still be 25 years before all the gas cars would be gone.
Really?
And right now, electric/hybrid only amount to 1% to 2% of the cars. And the electric cars are fine where the weather's nice. When the weather gets cold, the battery has less life. And the other thing that I've read is right now, a gasoline vehicle is 99% recyclable. Almost everything that goes in that car, when it's done, they save. With these electric cars and all of these exotic metals, and the nickel and the hybrid and the lithium, and where they're mining them and when they're getting them and where they're building them in high pollution places, if you add up the total environmental cost, even if you think that carbon is a pollutant, which I don't, but if you add up all that stuff, you're still better off today buying a gasoline car built in a new modern plant. And because from cradle to grave, the true costs of the true environmental costs are still higher because these batteries are being built in bad polluting, bad places.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller.
So anyway, I'm sorry, but that's...
No, not at all. The company I work for, we are a GMC supplier. We do the battery cables, the powertrains, the backup, wiring for when you back your car up, you look through the little screen there. And we have contracts every 2-3 years with GMC, and our contracts have to have a 5 to 10% reduction
Yes.
in the products that we manufacture. So we, will renew the contract, and we've got to go to our suppliers, the raw materials, and so on and so forth, and kind of bang on their doors and plead our case because, again, we have to reduce our costs to you 5 to 10%, and we've got to hand this down to, our suppliers. So it's, I've often said, and I really feel, and you know better than I, David, that the automobile industry is the big wheel that turns the U.S. Mm-hmm. There is so many things, so many people connected to it. I mean, you've got a tire factory here. You've got, like I say, the people that make upholstery there, the people that make the grills and hoods, and it is just such a big, major industry. It's, it's phenomenal.
Well, that's why they actually made sure not to let GM and Chrysler do a free fall bankruptcy, and they tried to kind of have it. Everything was all pre-planned because the suppliers, just like you're saying, the suppliers aren't on big margins either because they're getting squeezed. And had GM and GM and Chrysler gone out, Ford would have gone out too because most of their suppliers they all buy their stuff all from the same guys. And it would have been a total meltdown. And the one thing where I disagree with the president on this is that when he says, well, the government bailed out GM, which they did, but GM has paid back the American people 100,000-fold in that when you think of all the jobs that they've kept over the last 10 years.
Good paying jobs.
And really good ones, and how much money they've paid in taxes and how much health insurance and how much salary. And so that was a no-brainer. And I think it's a little unfair to give them crap for being smart about their business. Plus, these guys that get laid off, in today's economy, you can't ask for a better time to get laid off because people can't find help. Mm-hmm. These guys will all get jobs. They're all getting decent severance. A lot of them will get jobs even in other GM plants. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's the Great Depression and 20% unemployment. Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of it is politics. And
imagine that.
And but we'll because we are having a hell of a time getting enough pickup trucks.
Is that right?
We cannot get enough pickup trucks. The stuff that's real, we could use more 2500s and more half tons, and so they can't build enough of the good stuff.
They can't build it fast enough.
They can't build it fast enough. So it's just part of getting their business.
Ford went back this year. They did the Ranger again. I think the Ford Ranger had been mothballed for maybe 6-7 years.
Yes.
And I see that Ford has started that lineup again.
They have.
To your point, the pickup trucks are a wannabe in everybody's driveway.
And I think the other thing that you're going to see is not just GM, but all the guys are coming out with small pickups. Jeep's coming out with a pickup. And then Volkswagen.
Jeep came out today.
With a Wrangler.
With a Gladiator.
Yeah.
And it looks half Jeep, half pickup truck.
Yeah.
Because Jeep has really transformed itself.
Oh, Jeep 10 years ago was selling $200,000-300,000 a year. They're selling $2 million a year worldwide.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They've tailored all these vehicles so that any woman would be glad to step into one of these vehicles. There's that commercial on TV. I think it's a GMC where that guy bought him and his girlfriend or wife each a vehicle, and one was a pickup truck and the other was an SUV. And they came out and he basically said, "Look, 2 new vehicles for us." And she went right to that pickup truck.
Yeah, that's.
And he was trying to say, "That's mine," but she said, "I love it." But I love it, she said. So I guess the point I'm trying to make, they've tailored all these vehicles that, they're very good-looking vehicles, they're very comfortable, and, any woman would jump in any one of these today. It's not your stereotype old, pickup truck banging down the back roads, I mean, they ride like Cadillacs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cosmetically, a lot more pleasing these big rigs are.
And it's not just the pickup trucks. These car companies, they don't want to lose customers. What they're doing is they're going to stop building sedans. They're going to build more crossovers and SUVs. And then,
David, let me interrupt. What's the difference between a crossover and an SUV?
Well, basically, they're the same thing. Now, a true SUV used to be something like a Grand Cherokee or a GMC Jimmy or a Ford Explorer when they were on a truck chassis. And then SUVs are basically cars that look like SUVs, like your vehicle.
Is mine an SUV or a crossover?
Well, I call it a crossover.
Okay.
Now, what'll happen is people's tastes keep changing. When I first started selling cars, we sold probably half or 2/3 of the cars we sold were two-door cars. Remember?
Right, half.
Everybody used to have a two-door car.
Do you remember the 1974 oil embargo? All the car makers went to two-door sedans.
And then everybody switched to four-doors. So whatever the people want and whatever tickles their fancy, that's what they're going to build. And
of course, gas prices seem to come into play with all this to some extent, obviously. Right?
I honestly think that when GM, and this is just my opinion, that when GM got bailed out and that auto task force that Obama had, they kind of twisted their arm and made them build more cars than really what they would have wanted to. But you can't tell the guy that's writing your checks, no, I can't do it. And that's one of my pet peeves is I never thought they should have gone to the government, I shouldn't say that. I never thought that the government should have bought stock. All they needed was the government to guarantee the loan, which once they went bankrupt, they're break even now. They can make money in the worst economy we'll ever have. But anyway.
Anything else, caller, tonight?
People are always buying cars, so that's never going to go away. And
no,
like we say, it is the SUV era, and they're sporty looking, and I think people travel more than they used to, and they're very nice. You can fill them things right up with suitcases and kids and a pet dog, and it's a very good family vehicle to travel in as well. So I just think that GMC has a very good vision of the future, and they're the first company that's wading into this water. And in time, I'm sure you're going to see the other companies kind of following suit.
Well, they already have, caller. To give you an example, Ford last year said they're all done building cars except for Mustangs.
Yeah.
All right.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah.
3 years ago, Chrysler said we're all done building cars except for the Charger and the Challenger. And even Toyota is going to get rid of a few car models. And Porsche is coming out with a new Porsche today, new 911. And they said even though it's not our best-selling model anymore, it's our halo vehicle. They're selling more SUVs than they are 911s now. Wow. Think about it.
Now, Duke, you're an avid car sedan kind of guy. I will also tell you, my wife, when she purchased a vehicle herself last year at David's store, after hours, she started looking at cars and said, Donna, look at all these great-looking SUVs. And she goes, I want nothing to do with trucks or SUVs. I like having a car. And that's...
Well, and as the years go by, there'll be a melding. Cars will have more SUV features, like a lot of cars now have all-wheel drive. All right, that was one of the things that the SUVs had. And a lot of it is driving position, easier to get in and out of. Who's to say? I mean, I can't tell you. I never would have bet 10 years ago, that small cars would have been in the toilet.
Yeah. Caller, I have a question for you. You're a man on the road every day. In a few years, when the how do I phrase this? Non-driving car?
The
Self-driving?
Self-driving
autonomous
car.
is what they call
okay,
it.
the autonomous car. Will you purchase an autonomous car and grab a donut and a coffee and read the paper on the way to work every morning?
Let me guess, he'll say no.
No, listen, I'm not even the type of guy that uses an electric toothbrush. I mean, I like everything done manually by me.
Okay.
I hear you, although I do have an electric toothbrush these days.
So.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll let you
inconceivable.
guys go. Great show. David, very
Oh, thanks.
knowledgeable
Sorry, I'm
segment
so,
here. You always
yappy.
have something good for us, so you guys have a great evening.
Thanks, Bobby. We'll talk sports next week.
David, it's funny because we're 32 minutes into the show. Because a lot of times, and the caller is 100% right. The auto industry is no pun
It's a
intended.
big deal.
It's the driver of the pun intended, actually. Now, a lot of times I will ask you a car question, but I want to try to keep it a sports show. 7 minutes before the end of the show, and I run out of time. And I told my wife, if I ever started the show asking David a car question, I easily can do 90 minutes with you without running out of questions. I mean, but everybody has an automobile.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lowest common denominator here in this country. We all have cars. We don't know that much about them, other than we know how to
You know
drive
how many
them.
cars there are in the United States?
I'll say 350 million.
About 300 million.
Is that right? So almost one per person.
Yeah.
And
Is that right? 300 million?
300 million cars. So it's going to take a long time when they change to recycle the old ones out.
Now, as far as gas prices, most people I talk to could care less how much gas prices. They want a big vehicle, and they're going to pay whatever it takes.
Well, I mean, I think they could care, but it doesn't sound like it gets in the way of their decision making on what they're going to buy.
No.
Well,
I think they're happy to pay less and more.
and the other thing that's changed a lot is that 10, 15 years ago, all your crossovers got 15 miles to the gallon.
And now they're up to what?
Now they're 25,
20s?
30.
Yeah.
And they're only going to get better, and they'll be electric, and they'll be electric hybrid, and they're doing stuff all the time, and the gas motor isn't done either. There's still a lot of things they can do to get gas motors better and diesels and
it's funny too, when Donna was purchasing a vehicle from you last year, and I told you, Donna does not want a 4-cylinder vehicle. And of course, she had a very nice Grand Prix or something.
Is that right, too? Not enough power
And
for
David
her?
gently said, pretty much she doesn't know what she's talking about. I said, since you bought that vehicle,
there's been a
tremendous amount of change. Well, she bought a Regal and jumped into that, and boom. And that is... It's a car.
4-cylinder?
4-cylinder, but it moves really well.
Well, it's 240 horsepower.
And yeah, it moves well. And I'll tell you, you sit behind the wheel on that one, it feels like a European race car. They've changed, because I had a Jeep before I bought one from you. I got 16 miles a gallon on it.
Everything is getting better, more efficient. To give you an idea of horsepower, just for fun.
Yeah.
When now that we had a big era of horsepower in the U.S. from the late 60s to about 1970, that was when you had the high watermark of the muscle cars. GTOs, Mustangs, all that.
Mustangs were huge.
Time out,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been meaning to ask you this question. Late 60s, early 70s, to me, were the high mark of the American auto. The Satellite Sebring Pluses, the Roadrunners,
And Mustangs.
the Challengers, the Mustangs, I guess muscle cars, right?
Yes.
You talk to everybody in their 60s today, and they're not going to talk about their brand new vehicle sitting in their driveway. They're going to talk about when I was 17 years old, I owned a Roadrunner, I owned a, a Barracuda. Why doesn't Detroit say, look, we're just going to take, the called chassis, is what the car, the model, just the body. We're going to take these great bodies from the late 60s, early 70s, and we're going to put the modern.
Well, they did. That's your Camaro and the Mustang and the Dodge Challenger all were pretty much clones of 1970s design models. What's changed, what happened, if we go back, is starting in 1971, then there were more stringent emission controls every year. Well, they didn't have the technology that they do now. They didn't have the fuel injection in the computers and all that. So the performance really went in the toilet. And then, of course, in 74, with the oil embargo, then they started wanting gas mileage. And so a car, like my big old Pontiac that I've never shown you guys, I got a 74 Pontiac.
What kind?
Grand Am.
Okay.
That has 455 cubic inch engine, which is 7.4 liter.
How come you've never shown us?
Oh, I don't drive in the winter.
Okay.
Why not?
And it only has 200 horsepower.
Really?
Okay, 7 liters a car of motor, 200 horsepower. Your 4-cylinder car, which is 2 liter, has 250 horsepower. A V8 engine in the middle 70s had 150 horsepower. My new pickup truck has 430 horsepower. The technology is just incredible. It's just making things better. They get and the other things that's changed why we don't make those old bodies is, don't forget, you have a pile of safety issues today that you need. These cars today are basically really the cushions. In the old days, all you had for safety features were seatbelts.
Yep.
And not only that, now they've got to make the cars pedestrian friendly so that when they hit them, they don't kill them as much.
I remember back in the old days when bucket seats first, oh my God, this car's got buckets. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
So, and of course with all the self-driving stuff, and it's all very interesting. But we think that in Vermont, that things aren't going to change that much, because you aren't going to get an app and call up Uber and have them come and take your boat and put it down in the lake, or put your 4-wheeler in it and go out in the woods, or we're too spread out.
Yeah. So,
but that will happen, I think, in the big cities, because in a big cities it's very expensive just to park a car.
So electric cars in Vermont, is this just a place
there'll be some. There's people that are buying them.
Right?
There's guys that are buying them thinking.
But weather's a real factor with these guys.
Yeah, and what's happening is the cars aren't just getting to be all electric; they're all getting electrification. Like my truck now, my new truck has a feature where when you wait at the light, the motor shuts off.
Mine does too.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that used to be called a hybrid. Now the only difference is it doesn't run, the wheels don't run on electric.
Yeah, because mine shuts off, and I think I asked you a couple weeks ago, isn't that tough on the starter to keep starting up all the time?
I guess not.
I guess not. So I better roll along.
Yeah,
like I said,
we've had
okay, but
Nick, before we go to sports, any comments about cars? You've been very quiet.
Not really.
you know, in cartoons where they had that little bubble over the guy's head, Nick's bubble says, "Why in the hell did I show up tonight?"
Well, you know what? The young guys, when we were all younger, well, I don't know about Richard.
Cars didn't mean that much to me. I liked having one, but
When most guys, as soon as they got there, as soon as they were 16, they wanted a car. They wanted that freedom. They wanted to go. That's the American way.
Yeah, exactly.
But this generation here, it's okay. I'm not going to walk, but they aren't quite the same. They're a different. They would rather watch their computer screens.
right. I mean, my kid's 15. He's not too far from driving. I think it's
When I
far
was
from his
16,
mind.
I saved up all my, I was a Burlington Free Press carrier from the 6th grade until I turned 16. Then I started working at Martin Foods, which is now Hannaford's. Save.
For a car in particular?
For a car.
Really?
Got a car.
When did you get one? 16?
When I was 16.
Were you
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And my father says it's fine, but I'm not paying for your insurance. You want your car, you're paying for everything. I went down back then, Ann Derringer, which is now at Derringer, the way they pronounce it. But I bought my own insurance, and I was a junior in high school. And let me tell you, there were not many juniors in high school
Really? Of course,
that
they had
owned
a
and
car.
operated their own vehicle.
What was the car, Hawk?
Oh, it was any other day you asked me, I could have told you. I bought it from Clint Paquin down on Federal Street. Paquin.
Clint was a great guy.
Clint was kind of like a Dave Handy.
Clint was a piece of work.
Clint was a talker himself. I paid $850 for that.
Really? Wow, you remember that?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And then something happened, but I did buy a Satellite Sebring Plus after that, and a big muscle car.
Oh.
Right there.
Hey, our driver ed car had a 383
Really?
in it. It was a Fury 3.
I drove a Plymouth Fury in driver's ed.
And
1973.
And when the when the teacher wasn't looking, we were on the interstate, and the guy had it up to 120.
Yeah. Who was your driver's ed teacher?
I think it was Chuck Pierce, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Really? I had Bob Crawford, who was a teacher.
Yeah, I remember Bob.
So, anyways, okay, let's get going. And can I ask the studio director for more water? I'm very parched. In fact, everybody's out of water here.
Dave, you might want to bring one for Dave also, Nick. I don't need anything.
I'm
How about
parched.
2 waters?
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'm going to get this out of the way. I usually save it for the last 6 weeks. The match. It's come, it's gone.
I watched it. I gave up, and I paid the money.
How did you?
Really,
Didn't they have a big screw up on the watching
Okay,
it?
what changed your mind,
Really,
and who
you
watched
watched
it
it?
with you?
Nobody watched it with me. I was bored. It was cold out, and there was nothing else on.
You
and
you weren't at work at this point.
I wasn't at work. I was at home, and I got it through Cablevision or Comcast. And
Right.
what they did have a bad screw up.
Had a big screw up though in the
If
pay-per-view.
you wanted to stream it,
Yeah.
the streaming was screwed up, and so finally they gave it to everybody for free. And now what they're going to do is for everybody that paid the $20, they're going to give you a credit on your bill.
No, is that right?
But Charles Barkley had it right. They had Charles Barkley and a couple other guys on set. And Charles goes, "These guys stink today."
They didn't play well.
It was not all that exciting.
All right.
It was okay, and the side bets were really.
Course is pretty nice course.
Oh, course was great.
No, nobody was on the course. No fans, correct?
There were 750
yeah.
invited guests.
Invited guests.
Invited guests, no regular Joe golf.
You
fans.
couldn't pay $20 to go watch it. No.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know anything.
It was okay. It was something to do. When they got to overtime, what they did was they made a tee out of the putting green and had them hit onto the 18th green again.
By that time, it was getting dark at that point?
It was dark, but they were ready for it. They had a whole bank of lights and cranes with lights on them, and it was 93 yards.
Wow.
So they hit.
Just like one of Champlain's.
Number 14.
Number 14.
Well,
if you hit off the blue tees, it's exactly 93 yards.
Right.
So what they were saying was it's
R1.
kind of like at your member guest when everybody's had a snootful and they go back out and they're all set up and play. And neither one of them could putt worth a crap.
Really?
Mickelson actually played pretty well. He just didn't make
putt?
any putts.
But David, is that not the true nature of golf?
Absolutely.
Whether you're Dave Handy or Tiger Woods, David, you could tell me, like during the summer, you play the summer league before you come here. You would say, Duke, Hawk, I just played 9 holes and shot 36. Oh, Dave, that's great. Then you go out with your buddies the next day, right, and shoot 48.
46. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's because when Tiger said, what could you do to improve this? He goes, well, first thing is we could shoot better. But again, I don't hold that against him. Again, that's the nature of the beast when you're a golfer.
How did they screw up the pay? How could they possibly?
The machinery to work the streaming just didn't work.
Isn't that unbelievable? I mean, this is a big time match, pay-per-view. I mean, when I read that there was a glitch, I guess it was a glitch. That's mind-blowing to me.
Well,
can't they test that stuff ahead of time?
To think that Phil Mickelson made $9 million for that one round.
And was it clear? Did he pocket? I mean, is that? Not
That's $9 million is for him. What they said is the side bets went to charity.
So Mickelson pocketed
$9 million.
But I also heard the runner-up off the record. They guaranteed to them certain millions of dollars.
Oh, really?
Well. They just didn't publicize it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure they got money just for showing.
Yeah,
that just
my guess would be $3
blows
million.
my mind. They could have screwed up the television, the pay-per-view.
Well,
thing.
to have to give everybody their money back.
Okay.
Well,
In danger of making myself look like an idiot, and I don't have to try that hard. Nick, streaming, does that mean getting it off your computer instead of watching it on
thanks.
TV? at
That
home?
means
nothing
streaming is
else.
anything that you watch
Nighthawk.
over Wi-Fi internet
I don't want
connection
exactly. I
rather
think
than
we're good. I don't want that.
landline
I want
cable,
water.
yeah.
Give that to. We're good.
I'm so thirsty tonight.
Can we get it down there? A desperate guy.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you're streaming it, it's not the same as when it comes over
Right.
the air.
Right. Yeah, I mean that.
It's a different process.
Right.
Doc,
Like
don't feel
it'll
bad. This means nothing to me.
it'll come in differently. Like I mean, if you have a bad internet connection, then your stream's gonna be choppy, and
Is
it's gonna be cuts and all that.
streaming when we broadcast this here, it goes out over the air, however broadcast does it. But
Right.
when it streams on the computer, doesn't it all get digitalized, and then it has to be energized back up?
Doc, you want to jump in on?
I'm not entirely sure. That would be a Zach question on how they put it on Facebook Live. I'm not sure exactly
Because
how that goes on there, but yeah.
streaming is different, and what they've been able to do over the years is they've made they've gone from 1K to 2K, 4K, and all
Right.
that, so that now when you watch it, it looks just like it does on TV. But original streaming look like something from the dark ages.
Now, Nick just bought streaming for UVM basketball for
Yes.
$49.99 last week. Now they're playing George Washington tonight.
Technically, I didn't spend the whole $49.99.
Did you go $9.99?
I bought the $5 a month thing.
Okay.
Just to test it
Right.
out. but
So
we'll
do
see
you
how
have the
it goes.
George Washington
Yes.
UVM game on right
Yeah.
now? Yeah. So that you have to pay for. Now, last Sunday at 2:00, Giants were playing, but I DVR'd it. One of the big games for UVM of the year was they were playing Bucknell.
Yeah.
At the
I went there,
Bucknell, at the Patrick Gym. That's on ESPN3, which is on the computer.
Yeah.
However, on Comcast, if you
can't.
hit networks,
Right.
okay, it'll show the different networks, but they also have ESPN3.
Yeah.
So I clicked on that. So I watched the UVM Bucknell game,
What a mess.
which
Boy,
we'll
really?
get into. And then after that game, as I said, DVR'd the Giants and watched
Yeah.
that fiasco, which we'll get into
Mess.
later. So, okay.
Yeah, I watched the Giants game while I was at lunch before I went to Patrick Gym
Yeah.
on Sunday. So.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk some baseball. And that's why I didn't mind talking autos tonight. Again, just a dearth of news. Nothing out there. The biggest news of the day is Roland Torres. Is that his name? Ronald Torres was traded to the Cubs. Backup infielder from the Yankees.
Player to be named later.
Right. He was designated for assignment last week, so the Yankees get a cash and player to be
So
named
nothing
later.
goes.
Well, they've been making a lot of news on MLB about, number one, that the Phillies are in on everybody.
Everybody.
The Phillies are in on Machado. They're in on Harper. They're in on.
They
everybody.
met with Patrick Corbin last night.
and had his picture up on the
Scoreboard.
Jumbotron.
Yep. He met with the Nationals today, the top 3 suitors for Corbin.
And then he'll be in New York.
He's in with the Yankees tomorrow for lunch. So
Where do you think? Have you got a feel for where he ends up?
me thinks there are 3 good franchises right there. Maybe money will talk on that.
I think he's going to go wherever he gets the most money.
David, you tell me what you've heard, what type of contract he's going to get.
I haven't heard. But they're saying maybe the same thing as what you Darvish got, 6 and 120 something.
Yeah.
David,
that
that's
makes
exactly
sense.
what I read today. 6 years, he's 30 years old already. 6 years, $120 million.
Yeah.
So then the other talk, big talk on Seattle packaging up
Cano.
Cano. They were going to take back Ellsbury, and then the Yankees might be getting Diaz, their closer, but that's all a big mess. I don't know where that's going. And then, of course,
He's a good fit. The Mets are also talking the Mariners,
he would be better.
That
Cano would be better with the Mets.
That would be a good
Would you
fit.
would you like to have Robbie back with
No,
your boys?
No, he's still owed. He's still owed like $100 million.
Yeah, I
Right,
think he's got
still got a pretty big
120 left, and he's 35 years of age.
Is he-
And
is
if
he-
you
is he
remember
really?
right, dude,
He missed the 80 games
right,
last
missed
year.
first half of the year with PEDs. He still hit 303 with 10 home runs.
Now they're saying Evaldi tonight maybe to the Astros.
Is that right?
He grew up near Houston.
Right.
He is the second best player from Alvin, Texas.
Nolan Ryan being the all-time
yeah.
greatest.
That's all right. Alvin, Texas.
Yeah, so Houston is losing some pitching, so that would be a good spot for him.
So it sounds like he's not back with the Sox.
That's
No,
good.
I mean, it's one of those deals where he's just going to he's one of the top pitchers on the market behind Corbin. And honestly, he's just going to make a lot more than he's worth. And the Red Sox don't have that kind of money to throw around.
Well,
you know that just as well as I do.
Now too bad Leonard hasn't called because did I read somewhere where the Braves took Donaldson
Braves got Josh Donaldson.
and McCann?
Okay, they signed Josh Donaldson, who's been
23 mil or something?
injury-riddled for the last 3 years.
Is that right?
1 year, 24 million.
One year,
bucks?
23. Used to be a good defender. He's lost his defensive prowess.
Our last 3 years he's
Okay,
had.
so
But they're
immediately,
saying his last month though he hit.
with Cleveland had a good
If
September.
he's healthy, he's certainly a good
Right.
player.
Yeah.
Definitely,
So
yeah.
good deal for both of them because he's going to reestablish his market. And
McCann didn't cost him much.
Atlanta thinks they're on the verge of doing something special. But when I heard 23, I'm sorry, automatically I thought, poor J.D. Martinez.
Yeah.
How is Donaldson worth more than Martinez?
Interesting.
But that's just the way the market went.
Well, I
last year.
mean, do you think that this guarantees now seeing this contract at 1 year 24 or 23 for Donaldson, who has those question marks? Do you think that guarantees at least $350 million for Harper?
I'm guaranteeing you at least 330 for Bryce Harper. Yeah, is what
I think so.
I think that was the question beforehand. Was we saw how J.D. Martinez, who was the biggest free agent last year, get a lot less than people in prior years had gotten. We weren't really sure if we were going to see that bounce back from the free agent market this year. I think Donaldson, this signing might be a little bit bigger than it is because it set the precedent for
I agree.
what how much money the rest of the guys out there are going to get.
And I also think once the dust settles here after the new year, Mr. Boris will be talking to Mr. Dombrowski and saying, this is your one chance. You got 1 week to redo Martinez's contract, or we definitely will opt out after next season.
In saying that, though, you're assuming there's a market for him that will pay him a lot more than the Red
I'm
Sox.
sorry. If you're a 100 RBI guy, which Bryce Harper is.
How old is he?
30.
Low 30,
I
30,
believe.
31.
Donaldson was 34.
I'm not, yeah.
I think
right.
Martinez is 32.
That's what I think.
I would have said
But
31,
Bryce
31,
Harper
32.
is a 100
He's not
RBI
a young guy.
Okay,
No.
100 RBIs is pretty darn good. He's going to get at least 330. J.D. Martinez, 130 RBIs. And our good caller makes a great point. Whoever steps in that Red Sox lineup, no matter what spot, they're protected. So it may be a somewhat bit inflated. However, we know Martinez can hit even before he came with the Red Sox.
So you think that's what Boris says?
But
to
right
Bryce?
now, I'm looking at. I would rather get Patrick Corbin at $20 million a year than getting Bryce Harper at $30 million.
I was just about to ask you about your
I'd rather
boy,
take
Bryce.
the 20, pay the 20, and take the 10 million and pick up a pitcher like a Lance Lynn, that type
There's
of guy.
been some talk too that Arizona
Goldschmidt.
is willing to move Goldschmidt.
Yes.
Maybe if you take Greinke off their hands. And the Yankees, I guess
have to
they
get a
talked to him,
lot
but
back
there's
for that.
no way the
Jeez.
Yankees are taking Greinke because they don't think he can pitch in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Greinke,
No, it's all right.
right, and you can let the viewers know why he can't pitch.
Well, he had that nervous issue, but
yeah, he had real severe anxiety.
Sounds like New York or Boston probably would.
No.
well, he's got
Played
Sonny
in LA and he
Grayitis,
didn't go
maybe.
well, yeah.
boy.
And of course, they're going to get rid of Sonny Gray. They've already told them.
Yeah. Zach Greinke
Is a damn good pitcher.
Still can pitch.
Right.
Problem is, he gets $34.5 million a year. I think he is the highest.
Doesn't he get like a third of that whole
Even
team's
more than
payroll?
Mr.
Yes.
Even more than Mr. Price.
Yes, he is the highest paid average pitcher this season.
Yeah, he and it's interesting because I don't think that he would be a good fit in New York because you look at where he's been in his career. The Royals,
Exactly.
I believe he spent a short time
He
in
was with the
Milwaukee.
Dodgers, though.
And he was with the Dodgers, but he didn't really pitch all that well. He was okay.
But he wasn't the star. They had Clint Kershaw,
right.
so all the was on Kershaw.
Right.
So, but there are some good free agents out there, but the wall has to crack eventually. I'm hoping Corbin signs with someone this week to get started. Bryce Harper, I've heard nothing. Other than rumors.
I've been reading a lot of stuff. About
right, but just rumors, nothing solid.
My guess is this is just strictly right out from the seat of the pants. Is you're going to see the Yankees move somebody, Jacoby Ellsbury, big contract. They're going to get rid of somebody.
Big loss there. No offense, Jacoby.
And I think you're going to see them sign Bryce Harper, Corbin. They'll make a trade for Diaz. I think they are going all
wishful
in
thinking.
with both feet
Yeah.
and their toes and their arms because
You get the feeling they weren't too happy with how
they've
last
had
season played
enough.
out.
They've had enough of Sweet Caroline,
David,
and they've got a team that is this far away. And there's only one team that was better than them last year, and that's the stupid Red Sox.
David, ever since you've been on the show, every year, no, Hawk, the Yankees really want to get underneath that salary.
Not this year. They already did.
All right, so for the first time in how many years? 15
Since-
years,
yeah.
16 years, they were under the salary cap. They had a horrible year finishing second place with 102?
100 wins.
Terrible
100
year.
100
wins.
wins this year. Now they're just scratching and clawing.
Well, no, but I think they're going to try to finagle it because
You can't finagle a $35 million
well, they can go
year
up to
contract.
two. They can 215 is the new salary cap.
Yeah.
So they were at one. They were 160.
I'm not sure.
Oh, right,
but
they were that
the cap
low.
was 197 last year.
Yeah, they were 160 or 170. They were pretty good.
Is it 205 or 214 this
The
year?
Red Sox
the
are
new
what,
salary cap?
237 or
Right.
something?
Can
Yeah,
you
I
check
think
the
it's-
new salary cap for 2019? I don't know. Bryce Harper said this summer, and I quote, "I do not want to play in New York." He didn't say
doubt he
Yankees
goes-
or Mets. I
He
just don't
did-
think he's comfortable
He did say
playing.
that?
Yeah.
The last story, I've been reading a lot of stuff about Harper. The last story was the Dodgers. Dodgers might
There's
be
a
good
lot
fit
of
for
stuff
him.
on Harper. I think
I've seen tons of
Well,
stuff
it's just
on
a ton of
Harper.
rumors, but nothing credible at this
Well, I
point.
mean,
where
I think the
no
guy
doubt.
that really hurt his value is Machado, but because
I hope so. What a jerk.
yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah, it's hard for us guys to relate to someone making $30 million a year.
That would be accurate.
And when Machado said, I don't hustle,
I'm
blah,
not
blah,
Johnny
blah,
Hustle.
Johnny Hustle. It's like, okay,
Smart.
for most people, getting up at 5 in the morning, driving down to Burlington, to
Yeah,
go to work,
working
that
it.
doesn't really rub
No.
them.
Just when I got up yesterday morning, for the record, to go to work, 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, big jump from the luxury tax threshold, which is, effectively baseball's salary cap.
So what is it going?
2018 is 197 million. 2019 is 206.
Yeah.
So a jump of $9 million, which is pretty big, the biggest one since 2013.
Yeah. But, pitching is so valuable. Gee, that's a earth-moving statement. But even a mediocre pitcher like Gio Gonzalez, they expect he'll get at least $10 million 2-year
Well,
contract.
and look at all of the. Look at all the
he's just
high-end-
mediocre. He wouldn't.
He hasn't pitched
No,
well.
he hasn't been very good.
pitched
Pitched
well
well last
lately.
couple of years.
Look at all the high-end relievers out there. Zach Britton,
Yeah. Andrew Miller.
Kimbrel. I mean, there's a whole boatload of
Well, the Nats picked up
Robertson?
Kevin Herrera, who pitched
Okay.
great for the Royals this year. And but
Kimbrel's gone.
I'll tell you,
Nick, he's absolutely gone
yeah.
from the Red
Dude,
Sox.
don't throw your pen at me, but I'm still adamant. I would love to see the Nats pick up Clay Buchholz. I mean, you're as good as you are in your last season.
Speaking of Sox closer, here's a headline in the Globe today. Big story. Barnes made case to be Sox closer in 19. Yeah, Kimball's gone.
Yeah.
Geez, Clay, I'm sorry, you're saying that the Nats might go after?
We need a starting pitcher, and the problem with the Nats is, look at me. We have nobody.
I'm telling you, when
Nobody
you
even-
talk about him, it's very
I know.
painful for me to even hear that guy's name.
But they have nobody in the minors. There's just nobody in the minors, kind of like the Red Sox. The Red Sox have had a lot of great position players come up.
Sure.
Ditto for the Nats. But we have not developed any pitching.
John Lester.
Now, Evaldi, how much money is he going to get?
I would
lot.
say more than 10 million a
Yeah.
year.
Oh, I was thinking he's going to get
So
like 4 years,
the Red,
75 million.
The Red
maybe.
Sox wouldn't they pay
Yeah.
him 10 mil?
But
I was
why?
thinking a lot more than that.
I think he's going
Right.
to get 4 years, 80 million.
Is that right?
But he's got a
20 mil year?
lifetime ERA of 4.38.
He's a different pitcher now.
But his
This
different
is his.
pitcher.
This is
Look,
his
he looked
one
pretty-
chance.
He looked pretty good in the world.
Right.
This is his one chance to hit the
sorry.
cash
Right,
register
but
now.
right. He did the great thing where everybody was watching.
He'll never be
But
that good.
He pitched 4 months of good baseball. Just look at his career stats. He's not a kid. He's got a lifetime whip of about 1.36.
But again, speaks.
And he's
speaks
got a
to the-
100-mile-an-hour fastball
Right.
in the 8th inning.
Right.
His really, I mean, his relief, his long relief effort in that game, the game
he's-
they ironically lost, was unreal.
But I'm reading too,
Heroic
like Houston.
effort.
If he goes to Houston, he could end up being a do it all type pitcher, not necessarily the starter on that team.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
there's a lot.
he's going for a good payday.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to talk about the Giants.
Okay.
But what was the story? Of course, I read the stories. Did they forget they had about the best running back in
They
the
were
world?
ahead
19-3. Right?
19-3. Should have been more than that.
What a horrible loss.
All I can say is at halftime, I had to go to the bathroom and wash off that Kool-Aid stain on my face.
Oh,
Hawk, you're always telling me when the Pats were killing the Colts at halftime. Oh, game's over. I never ever.
right. Okay.
Were you
Oh,
assuming the game?
I
was
wasn't with
over?
the Eagles. You
Okay,
never know.
Here,
That would never
I'm
assume
No,
good.
not with the
okay,
Eagles.
I'm going to give
But
you.
were you assuming that?
the Nighthawks, the way his brain works. It's halftime.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe the stupid thing OBJ said about winning 8 straight could happen. Okay. So we're going to beat the Eagles today. We're each going to be 4-7. Okay. Washington doesn't have a quarterback left anymore. Now Dallas, they would be 2 games above us. Oh my gosh, how do we do that? Lo and behold, in 24 hours from now, they're playing the best team in football, the New Orleans Saints. They're going to lose that. So we're only 1 game behind.
I know, I
And
was the same thing.
And the
I'm-
last
I
game
know.
of the season, the Giants play the Cowboys. We're even with the Cowboys, and with a few other games, we'll work
A few
it out.
other
And it
games, yeah.
said, we've made the playoffs, and Duke is going to
That's
sit and me.
you're that's how you're
Totally
thinking.
dead serious.
Me too. I
had everything worked out in my
guys.
head.
What is the story with you guys?
And
Unbelievable.
and then the game's over, and sometimes I will say to myself, how can you be so stupid?
there is that.
What did the
def-
Giant
there-
hire? What did they say about their strategy or lack thereof? What did
Well, Shermer said, "Look, they only had the ball 4 times in the second half. The first time they had it, they thought they would spell
Barkley.
Barkley. They gave it to Gallman. His first run was 7 yards. The next run was 5 yards. It was penalties and holding and sack.
Giants
It
thing.
just turned to
Giant football.
turned to crap. But worse than that, is their defense hasn't made a stop
a key
since
stop?
2012 or 10. The last
a lot
time
of
they were in the
stops in
Super
the first
Bowl
half.
to win a game.
Oh, okay.
The Eagles went right down, just like Swiss cheese, 4th and 3, no problem, whatever you want. Their defense is terrible,
Well, let me tell you this. Olivier Vernon,
awful. He had a
aside
terrible
from the
game.
Dolphins, he had a very, very good first season. Last year, injury riddled, didn't play well. This year, missed first few games, has not played well. 1 sack, all for $17 million a season.
Plus, how many penalties did he get?
Yeah, they better cut him. And again, as bad as that offensive line has been all year, and they're slowly improving now, that defense is probably even worse than our offensive line.
It's awful.
Our team is so bad defensively that You can talk about.
And I'm really thinking, you know what? Eli really I thought he had a bad game. He missed 2 or 3 wide open things, made bad decisions.
Saquon was that entire offense on Sunday.
That last interception, or at the end of the first half,
They could have had 3 points because Rojas
really bad,
Yeah.
really bad.
he threw into double coverage.
And then I guess on the 2-point conversion, he threw to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
He is slow.
But David, we talked on the show last week
horrible loss
that the
for you
Giants finally figured it out. That the best guy on the team is Barkley.
Give him the ball.
Give him the ball. He had 147 yards the previous game. He is the star of the team. Forget Manning, forget Beckham. It's all about Barkley.
But how could they be thinking? Again, they're playing a team. Again, their defense. They know they don't have a good defense. They're playing a team they know who could come back. I mean, wouldn't you think they would stay with their aggressiveness in the second half?
The Eagles secondary had now one guy that was in the NFL 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they were missing like 4
right?
starters.
Really?
Yeah.
They had 4 guys off the
Yeah,
street, and the
Giants
Giants
put
couldn't
in,
beat
yeah.
them.
Well, that
Giants
sounds
put
like
up
one of your
19
more
points.
painful losses in a
And
long
I guess
time.
Ingram hurt his hamstring warming up.
Yeah, he didn't play at all. And, we've talked about the horrible draft picks. He's turning into a bad choice as well. He's
think
an
that's a little
athlete,
bit
but
quick.
did the Giants really need last year to draft a tight end? Absolutely not.
He was Reese's draft pick.
Yeah, it was Jerry Reese's pick. We obviously not only need a defensive end, we need 2 defensive ends. There's so many holes on that team.
Well,
we're picking 5th, and we're not going to win Sunday against Chicago. We've got the Colts playing. We're playing the Cowboys. We still.
Oh, we're done now.
We're
We're
done.
done.
So I know you don't like me to say this, Duke, but you could sit there, enjoy the game. If you win, that's fine. If you lose, might even be better. We're 5th overall, still in the draft. Word now is where I thought Oakland was going to take a quarterback.
Well, that's kind of the saving grace to that
right.
horrible game for you.
And that's what the Royals, Atlanta Braves have done, the Philadelphia 76ers. You strategically lose games on purpose to build for the future.
You're not telling me they did that, or
well, the way you lose games is simple, okay? Is you sit Eli Manning out, gives you a chance to win, and you put this Kyle Lauletta in, will give you no chance to win.
They've been talking about putting in the other guy.
Alex
I'm talking
Tandy.
about the last week.
Oh,
Sunday.
no. They were like me.
You're not telling me
no. They were all
purposely-
drinking the Kool-Aid.
They thought they were going to. They thought they were going to win.
Oh,
They got beat, and the Eagles aren't that good this year.
yeah.
No,
really.
If you go by my house, I have a nice American flag, and underneath it, I change it per season. My New York Giant flag. I told my wife Sunday afternoon, we've got to get out there this week and change it over to the Canadians. But seriously, halftime, I'm just like, I'm glowing, I'm gloating.
All he needs one more touchdown.
Yeah.
We got him.
You're assuming no problem.
There was no
assuming
issues.
we'll definitely win this game.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah. That's how we're so unlike.
Right.
I would never ever
Absolutely.
be totally
And I told you
confident.
this happened about 10, he doesn't forget. The Patriots were playing the Colts,
I'll never forget that game.
and the Patriots were up by like 20 points. I'm a
21 to
football
3
fan.
or something?
Yeah, and I'm saying, what a disappointment.
Of course, we're talking Peyton
I have been
Manning.
watching or waiting for this game all week. I shut it off at halftime, game, set, match. Colts come back,
Well,
beat them.
the game.
I think the biggest instance of this was the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Which one?
When the Patriots came back against the Falcons.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
right, that game was
that's why you
over.
never-
who in
right.
even I.
that was
glad I
that
was
was
in Florida.
28-3. I
Jeez, I'm
mean,
glad I didn't walk out of that game. I think it might have crossed my mind. I was so
Hey, I'll
down.
tell you what. The Patriots play the Eagles in the Super Bowl 9 times out of 10. They win that game.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Jeez,
That
Nick-
was the
Nick-
one. That was the one.
Of course,
in
they
10
run
they
into
lose.
Nick Foles playing the game of his life.
Right.
Obviously.
Speaking of, thank you for bringing him up.
He's
Just say
bad.
the Giants do draft Justin Herbert from Oregon, and say they don't want Manning around next year. I read that Nick Foles, who's a free agent, would be a nice bridge quarterback until you get to Herbert.
I don't see
I
them
think you
going
could
for
do
a
a lot
quarterback.
worse.
Well, I'll tell you who could be the Giants' quarterback of the future, and I'm dead serious. I think what we're going to pick is Jonah Williams out of Alabama, offensive tackle, or Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU, the 5th pick overall. Second pick, of course, being one of the worst teams, top pick. I think Daniel Jones
I was going to mention, I was going to acknowledge, I was telling you last week, don't hang one game against a great team, Clemson, on Dan.
Right.
Yeah.
Given the horrific, when I saw the score, I didn't even see the score till Sunday. I checked with my friend Roy today. I said, Roy, I hope you weren't in Durham. He said, no, we never go down for Thanksgiving time games.
Yeah.
This was at Durham. This has got to be one of the worst games of Coach Cutcliffe's tenure at Duke, which has been very good. What a horrible game. So I will not give you any hype about
now,
Mr.
Daniel Jones, 6'5",
Horrible
230.
game. What happened to those guys?
He fits the uniform nicely.
Wake did need to win that game to get into the to get a bowl game.
Yeah.
Duke, it was funny. The reverse last year, Duke had to beat Wake at Wake to get a bowl bid, which they did, and they won the bowl game. It was reversed, but horrible
Clemson,
game.
David, was favored by either 28 or 28 and a half
they won
points,
by.
and Clemson won by 29. But Jones and this kid from West Virginia, Will Greer, he had 5 touchdown passes. That they might sneak into the first round, but they look like top second-round picks.
Well, he couldn't
so
have
the
helped
Giants
himself
could be
last
picking
week.
the quarterback
Even then,
future. And again, we don't know if Laletta
I'll tell you
is
what
playing.
we really need, though. We need a We need pass rush. Our pass rush is terrible.
Right.
Yeah,
we need.
Feel free to share that with the Patriots. They
I'll
could
tell you
use
what
a
else
little
we
more
need.
Pass rushing.
I'd get rid of Oglethorpe or Ogletree. He can't cover
Oglethorpe.
anybody. He's been
David, I
terrible.
can tell you with a straight face, he's pretty good on the run. He got him from the Rams in the offseason, and he was voted defensive captain, pretty good on the run. But I will say, in the over a half century of me watching football full-time, he's the worst pass covering linebacker I have ever seen.
Ever.
And I don't know why he's there on third down plays.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys sit here. You can't, as Giants fans. I'm personally not a Giants fan, as you guys know.
Who do you like? Are you a Pats guy?
Yeah.
Hey, my man Nick's a fellow Pats guy. Pats get so little attention on this.
Trying to put a Giants cap on here for a second. I cannot see if the Giants draft a quarterback at all in this next draft, maybe even the draft 2 years from now, I'm going to be all sorts of upset. I mean, you guys talk about every single week, oh, this offensive line sucks. This defensive line sucks. They don't have any pass rushing. Yep. Their cornerbacks suck. They can't cover the pass. Their middle linebackers suck.
It's true.
It sounds like, I don't watch a whole lot of Giants football, but it sounds like every single position, the Giants suck.
All right, yes.
They got one position they're okay, wide receiver.
Yeah, Nick, that's why you're getting paid the big bucks. They do.
Why put a quarterback who's never played at the professional level into that, whatever the heck you want to call it, because it just wouldn't work. It would ruin. I mean, you put this Herbert guy in there, that's going to ruin everything. I mean, it'll definitely stunt his growth.
Well,
to put it behind
I will say
that
this:
offensive line. You got to build up the rest of your team.
I would take
first.
the L.A. Rams blueprint, where Jared Goff didn't come in to play until the 9th week or 10th week of the season, because the Rams were a bad team at that point. I, under no circumstances, would even dress the quarterback until midway during the season, let him learn. But Nick, you're right, you synopsize whatever that word is very well. We suck in about half our positions. We really, truly do. So
I don't think they're as good as Clemson or Alabama.
Is that right?
I think Alabama could beat the Giants.
Is that right?
That's ridiculous because,
Alabama,
you look at Alabama, they might have 10. Well, this is a really good team.
10 first-round draft picks on that team.
They might have 15 players that play in the NFL.
Is that right?
On that team.
Clemson not too far behind.
Clemson a little bit behind, yeah. The Giants have... There's 53 men on the roster that could play in the NFL.
Well, only about 30 of them belong in the NFL.
Right, I know you guys are going to... But still, that's 30... Alabama doesn't have 30 players that belong in the NFL.
Well, their quarterback... Now, that kid's going to be drafted high.
Right,
but
if he can stay healthy.
He's a sophomore, so he's not coming out.
That guy's got a... He's big
smart.
gun.
That might be the position where they might have something on the Giants at this point.
Now, the second quarterback in the draft...
Because you guys know my stance on Eli Manning.
Is Drew Lock out of Missouri.
Yeah.
And he's playing well. You know what his negative point is? He says he's a clone of Eli Manning. Very quiet. Good quarterback, but just very quiet.
Well, can he run? You have to at least be able to move your feet.
Right.
Eli looks like he's in concrete right now.
It's, yeah.
Well, I mean, you just wait. You guys,
Tom
if the
Brady's
Giants,
exactly
honestly,
the best
if they just wait
he
and
moves around in the pocket,
build up this team, you build up your offensive line, you build up your defense a little bit, you play with a crappy quarterback for 2-3 years, Tua Tagovailoa is going to be available 2-3 years from now or down the road in the draft. The Giants could still be in that position where they're still probably going to be bad if they don't have a quarterback. There's Tagovailoa, there's another good kid, true freshman, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, might be the best quarterback I've seen in the last 10 years. There's a lot of the quarterbacks.
Haircut.
Yeah, the quarterbacks this year have nothing on the quarterbacks that are coming out in a few years. If the Giants just build the rest of their team,
the Giants' offense performs poorly Sunday, I would almost bet even money that Laletta will play the following week.
Yeah,
because we have to see
what
because is he good enough? Or do we take that second-round pick and draft a Will Grier or Daniel Jones?
No, I agree. That makes perfect sense to me.
Again, okay, you mentioned we don't talk about the Patriots that much on the show because great things you just don't need to talk about that much. Again, they're playing in a sub-500 division.
You can relate to them playing in a pretty not very impressive division.
Yeah,
right?
we're in a bad. But
we're in an awful division.
Yeah, but the Patriots, they're 8-3.
It's kind of a workmanlike effort.
They're going to get their
Jets.
12 wins a year. It's death, taxes, and 12 wins for the Patriots. It's pretty much the way life goes.
Thank you for the Steelers losing. Thank you, Ben, for throwing it.
Funny.
Horrible.
Right when I'm thinking, Duke, the Steelers are about ready to supplant the Patriots. Everybody's on the Chiefs bandwagon.
Well, yeah, the Patriots are in position right now to get that top seed because the Chiefs are only a game ahead of them. Yeah. And the Chiefs lose one more game. Patriots win out. Patriots are a pretty easy schedule.
But again, the Viking, that doesn't strike me as in.
The Vikings are, just barely above 500 though. I mean, they haven't really.
The game's in Foxborough. Yeah. Although the Patriots seem to manage to lose in Miami, just about including a few years ago, a game I'll never forget.
That was the end of the
when
season.
When they conceded the game and lost home field advantage.
Yeah, I remember
and lost to Denver in Denver, when they, in all likelihood, probably would have beaten them in Foxborough. They conceded the game. How can you do that? I'll never forget that game.
David, last thing on the Giants. The whole irony of the season. Last year, they are just a ton of injuries, and I could go down the list. This year, like 2 weeks ago, nobody on the injured list.
Not one.
I've never seen that this late in the year. Last
Really?
week, the last game was Kerry Wynn, defensive end, was out on a concussion. This week, you may see Ingram be the only guy
with a hamstring.
He's got a tailbone injury. That's why he's. But you'll never see a season. I mean, this is it. You want to see the Giants? We have everybody.
So what about your boy Odell? Has he had a good year? What's
he's been all right. He's
got 1,000 plus.
He's been keeping his mouth shut. He's been a good.
No, he talked again this week. Mike Francesco on the fan today.
Mike Francesa
said,
of course, he retired to claim, had like a 6-month retirement.
Yeah, and then he was right back.
Comes back within a year. What about unbelievable?
He said on a show today that they've got to get Beckham off the team because he made a statement after the game that Shermer had no game plan against the beat-up Philadelphia secondary. So
Beckham is high maintenance. He's a coach killer.
Yeah. He's got his 1,000+ yards already. I mean, he is a great player. However,
just not a real fun guy to have.
Well, I think the Giants were built backwards. Instead of having strong line, strong running game, having a fancy schmancy wide receiver, that doesn't really do you crap if you got nothing else to go with it.
Yeah. And I said it a million times during that draft. Zach Martin was sitting there from Notre Dame, and I said, I know it's not sexy, but let's take Zach Martin, okay? And we took Odell Beckham from LSU. 3 picks later, the Cowboys take Zach Martin, and from his rookie year, every year at right guard, Martin's been an all-pro player.
Well, and I think the Giants had to pay Beckham. I think they couldn't let him. They couldn't take the chance that he was going to go somewhere else. And they paid him the market price. He is good, but he would be good if they had a good team. But
I mean, on a bad
that's
team,
the thing.
It's like paying somebody big buckos like that.
No, that's the thing about the Giants is that I mean, they're stuck in this fantasy where, it's New York, it's the bright lights. You're playing for the Giants. I mean, it's all everybody's, paying attention to you constantly. And they they want to have that flash to them, but they don't have the players around the Odell Beckhams and the Saquon Barkleys to be able to put it all together and be successful. And so these guys are getting frustrated. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Giants keep up like this. We could probably see Saquon Barkley start getting frustrated as well. I
don't think so, though.
I think that Odell, I mean...
Too happy about the second half.
He
kept his mouth. He
did keep his mouth shut.
He's not like that.
No, it sounds like he's
quality.
Right. He's educated. And last thing, Eli will surpass the 55,000 yards passing mark this week. Only Dan Marino, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning,
probably Drew Brees,
and one other player has ever done that.
Didn't Brady just pass Peyton in total calling playoff games?
And Tom Brady's the other 55,000 yards. So, Nick, I want to get to you quickly. Bucknell. Thank you, Jesus. Bucknell from Pennsylvania. Is that where they're from?
They beat the Dukies in a final, not a Final Four, a March Madness game a few years ago.
I do remember that.
They
took Michigan State to the wire a couple years ago.
They beat us last year. They won the Patriot League last year.
Lost a lot.
They're on ESPN3, as I said. I was able to watch it on TV. Worst game. Now, I've seen UVM lose millions of times, but this was the worst played game I have ever seen in my life.
So you watched this game?
On ESPN3.
Nick, you were there?
He was there in person. Now listen to this, Duke. The Cats gave up 20 points in the first half.
And 49 in the second.
49 in the second. Wow. So, Nick, you were there. What the hell happened?
Basically, I mean, this was just a repeat of the championship game in March when they blew the lead to UMBC.
Just the offense
it wasn't even just that they disappeared. It was just a lack of effort all around. They just looked uninterested.
Really?
You know how you can just tell when there's a team that just you know that they just don't want to be there.
Boy, Becker didn't mince words after this game.
And he did not. He didn't. He came out and said, "Listen, if these guys aren't going to get with the program, we're going to find other guys to play in their place."
I didn't hear that.
He had some pretty hard words.
This was an embarrassing loss to a team that wasn't really any good at all. Bucknell did not have a lot of talent.
That sounds like one of their worst losses in
They're
years,
playing pretty good tonight.
They are playing good tonight. They're up by 10 on George Washington at the half.
Is that right?
You're watching the game?
At GW.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. But
GW's a pretty good team too, aren't they?
Yeah,
Mike Lonergan left UVM to coach it until he ran into some.
Didn't he run into some?
He did.
Well, I mean, if that's a whole interesting. That's another interesting story, probably for another time. I don't think we have enough time in 7.5 minutes to fully get into that. But basically, what happened there was Mike Lonergan and the AD did not get along well, and the AD made up a bunch of stuff and blackmailed him out of the job.
You're talking at UVM now.
No, I'm sorry,
George Washington. He was fired.
He was fired because
he's got a lawsuit against George Washington.
Right. The AD there.
But weren't they doing pretty well? What was the
they were doing well. He had
they
just didn't get along personality wise. Yeah, Mike Lonergan led George Washington to an NIT championship, which is obviously the tournament right below the NCAA's. But
so is Lonergan coaching
Lonergan
now?
doesn't coach anymore because he was blackmailed out of it. This whole thing. I mean, they said it was just a bunch of
Nick, let me ask you. I read like he was bullying his players.
It was.
I mean, he's an old school coach where he's going to holler at his players.
Yeah, they said that he made homophobic comments about different about just a whole bunch of different stuff, bullying his players, all of that. And, the report found that the AD was actually pretty much nothing short of a lunatic. That was,
Is the AD gone by now, too?
Yes, the AD's gone because they found out that he was engaging in relationships with students at the college.
I'm sorry, Nick, we don't give enough time to talk basketball, but our priority right here is talking about automobiles. But the coach of George Washington is Maurice Joseph.
Who played
player, right?
Decent player. So I'm assuming
under Lonergan.
What happened was he was an assistant coach under Lonergan.
I'm not sure exactly what happened there.
That's probably
Chris Holm, who I remember played for UVM.
Another fine UVM player. Yeah, there's a huge UVM connection.
Yeah, that was really sad how that went down with Mike Lonergan because, I mean, the guy's a really good coach.
Oh,
I mean, we know that from
he was
the time
good.
he spent in Burlington, and for him to get just
Did he follow
blackmailed out
Brennan?
of
Was
the
he
job.
right after Coach Tom?
Yeah.
Did he follow probably the next
Yes,
guy in?
yeah.
He replaced Brennan and then left in 2010, I believe, and that's when John Becker arrived in 2011.
Yeah, because Lonergan was completely opposite of Brendan.
Yeah.
Because Lonergan's an X and O guy.
Right.
Where Brendan
serious
is
guy, yeah.
loosen it up, let the
Right.
kids
I don't
play.
think Lonergan could
So-
do a lively radio show probably.
Townsend, we played Townsend in 2 nights in Baltimore. George Mason, I can tell you, I don't know where George Mason is.
Virginia, not too
Virginia.
far out of
Yeah,
DC.
they're DC.
Northern Virginia.
Okay, so we play them next Monday. So we're
Of course, they made it to the Final Four. They were a huge story, 10, 15 years ago? And out of the blue, they got
2005,
to the Final
2006 was that year.
Yeah.
They made it to
Heck
the Final
yeah.
Four.
Yeah. So, and over the Thanksgiving weekend, I went down to Northfield
Four. Oh, right.
for the Prime Link tournament. They had number 2 ranked in the country, Adrian, out of Michigan. These guys were big, strong, fast, and Norwich upset them.
Really?
Just, a good goaltender for 60 minutes can beat a great team.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
And that's what happened. And Middlebury upset Plattsburgh, which was a nationally ranked team, the first game. And then the following night, Norwich beat Middlebury like 5-1.
Now, who coaches Middlebury now?
Sinclair's his last name, former player for Bill Beanie.
Do you know he
How could I
recruited
forget Bill
Emmy?
Beanie? Really?
Sinclair?
Sinclair.
Did he coach the
yeah.
girls team for a while? Or?
He coached the girls at Williams,
Oh, at Williams, okay.
No, is that right? No, that's cool.
and then he switched to Skidmore, back to boys,
Oh, interesting.
and so they must have got him to replace Beanie.
Yeah, that's exactly
Because
right.
you're watching this game, I've asked you this before, is it just obvious to you you're seeing obviously good hockey players, but talent that's clearly less than you're watching if you're
it's
watching
just
a UVM
a little
game?
slower, a little smaller. But I make this analogy is, I think sports is exceeded what the inventors of the games expected. Like NBA basketball would be much better if it was 4-4. The 10 guys at 6'11", it's not enough time and space. Even D1 hockey, NHL's like this. All time and space is the most important quote I have. There's so little of it. You don't see many great plays anymore. There's a lot of deflection and rebounds. But you'll get this. I would rather watch women's tennis than men's tennis, because men's tennis is so darn fast.
And I've told you that
in the
the same
volley
thing.
situation.
Right.
So D3
Yeah, I've told you the
is
same
almost
thing
the
many
perfect
times.
scenario to watch, because you still can see a lot of odd man breaks coming out.
Probably a lot, and they're good hockey players.
Yeah, and there's
If
still
Nor-
good
if-
hockey players. Like Norwich has one Vermonter on the team.
Yeah.
You think all these Vermont kids getting to UVM, forget about it. They're not good
never.
enough
Yeah.
to even play of Plattsburgh, Middlebury.
Right.
If Norwich
No.
played UVM 10 games, it might beat them once or twice.
If the goalie stood on his head, but
UVM's got a
That's
good
all.
goalie, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you want to go watch some D3 hockey, just go down the street to Gutterson Fieldhouse. That's the way it's
Okay.
been this year.
Yeah, in UVM they actually beat Dartmouth over the weekend, but we're 1-5 in the East Hockey
East.
East.
They've scored
Dead
more
last.
than one goal in 2 games this year.
Boy, just
2 games.
can't score. Huh?
2 games.
And that's a common denominator
Both on
at
their own.
every level. It's so hard to score a goal.
It is hot. I mean, it's certainly an issue in the NHL still, or not so much this year.
Well, they've been scoring more.
NHL
little bit-
a little more scoring. Boy, hawk.
50
Last
seconds.
minute, yeah.
Goalies' equipment have been reduced. So, David, I hate to pick favorites, but you're my favorite panelist
Oh,
tonight.
thanks.
So that is it. That will conclude this edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. For Zach, Red, Super Dave, the Duke, I am the Nighthawk. Until next week, everyone, remember, you don't have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Ciao.
See ya.
Adios.